Hey guys, thanks for joining us here at Salty Ginger Talk. If you're a returning listener, it's great to have you back. If you're new to the channel, really glad you joined us. Hope you like what you hear. Our guest today is an awesome lady. Her name is Angela Marshall. She has just a great story to share, has lived several different lives in her life, and started out small town in Georgia. And her ex-husband was an NFLer for a while, and she'll talk a little bit about that, but we're really interested in how she's kind of redeveloped herself multiple times in her life. She is an author, she is a ghostwriter, so she will write content for you. She's a coach and a mentor, she is a speaker, and she's just an all around fabulous lady. So, without further ado, let's bring Angela on to the podcast now. So, Angela, thank you so much for joining us here at Salty Ginger Talk.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited. Let's get into it.
Yes, totally. So Angela and I had a great conversation a couple months ago. I think it was a couple months ago at this point. It was a while ago, and been looking forward to having her on the podcast because you were going to love her story, you were going to love her energy, and she's got lots of great things to talk about that I think are going to be really helpful to you in your everyday life, which is what we're all about here at Salty Ginger Talk. It's about building a better life, and you are responsible for doing that on your own. But you can get lots of help and support and tips from people like Angela, which is why she's on here. So, if we could, we do it a little bit different. I want to go all the way back, go in the way back machine, and talk a little bit about your upbringing and out of high school and into the professional world, and we'll start there. Just broad strokes. You don't have to get real detailed because you got lots of good stuff. But I want people to understand how many different lives you've led, and it's a good place to start. You know.
That is an awesome way to put it. I've led many lives, and I'm still leading many lives, living many lives. So thank you for that. I'm going to use that going forward with your permission, of course.
Go ahead, fire away. You bet.
So I am, as you mentioned before, Angela Marshall. Again, thank you so much for having me. I started out as a very curious little girl. I'm told that I have always been one who talked an enormous amount. So, ta-da, I'm a speaker. Fast forward to now, I'm a speaker. I was in a lot of, from what I remember, church productions and plays and school plays and different things like that. And I think that that had a lot to do with why I'm so vocal and verbal now as it relates to trying to get people to understand why it's so important to live vicariously through themselves, in addition to using your voice to live, right? So, born and raised here in Augusta, Georgia. Yeah, shout out to home of the Masters, which I'm sure most of your viewers and your audience knows the big Masters, the golf tournament that's held here in Augusta, Georgia. That's where I hail from. Grew up again with two parents in the home, but they were not my biological mother and father. They were my grandparents. So shout out to them for putting up with me and molding me into the woman that you see today. I have always been a liver and a lover of life. Even from young, like a young child, I was just, into quite a bit, whether it was plays or it was reading, even mischievous things. So I think those things build character, right? Because in order for you to find your voice and strengthen, you got to have some weaknesses to strengthen, right? And I had plenty of them growing up. I am an only child, and I live very much up to that as it relates to being spoiled, being a little bit of being selfish. But it's so funny because it's like the yin and yang is what I'm finding, because you start out, well, for a lot of people, you start out one way, you start reflecting on your deficiencies and your flaws, and then you should try to correct them. So I started out very selfish. Now I'm very selfless as it relates to my life and testimony, and just, being of assistance to people, being in service to people. So, childhood, Augusta, Georgia, even with middle school, high school, we'll talk about this going forward. During my high school time, I eventually would meet my he's not my former ex-husband, but it's another reason why I am afforded the opportunity to tell my story across multiple platforms, because I was married to a professional athlete, National Football League football player, and I actually had an incredible time with that as it relates to just, learning myself, learning different things about that world and just the world in general, which is another reason why people should understand why they need to live vicariously through themselves and not through celebrities or anybody like that, because it's not good. So I met him in high school. During my high school years, I was pretty much the same, curious, very, very smart, but couldn't really tell it because I was, more so of a class clown and was into the things that some of the reckless high school youths were into, like cutting class and whatever else, not really focused or honed in like I am now. Disclaimer for the younger viewers, I do not advocate for that, but hey, it's a part of my story. So I have to tell the truth, right? So I have to tell the truth. And also I have 6 incredible grandsons. So, I try to lead them on the right path. However, a part of that, leading a person on the right path, right, is about telling them about your messes and your mistakes and your missteps. Let's see. So that was from little to middle school, high school. I went on to, eventually my ex-husband went to the the Denver Broncos first. So we got married in Denver. We have 2 incredible children, 2 adult children now, son and daughter. And the 7 years of that lifestyle taught me so much. The main thing that it taught me was resilience. In addition to not everything is as it seems. That is a true statement. A lot of smoke and mirrors as it relates to, celebrityism and whatnot. Won't go down that road just yet unless you ask me some questions a little bit later. But it was a very, very, a very good experience. So much so that I eventually wrote a book about it. Not the experiences that weren't my own, but just, how I saw things that happened to me, things that, would eventually help me to elevate to the person that I am today. When we came back about 6 years later, was going through a tumultuous time, got a divorce, and then I went into the work world. Now, again, this is a person who went from high school sweetheart, married, NFL player, didn't really have to lift a finger to do a whole lot. And so now I find myself, okay, what am I going to do to support me? And at the time, our children were like 9 and 11. Went out into the work world, met some incredible people, also met some awful people. But hey, shout out to the awful people, because they strengthen you. They really do. Like, now that I'm wiser, I'm a little bit more solid and more seated in my beliefs and everything. I do see a purpose for even the most awful and meanest person on this earth. And for me, the reflections, going back to the different things, different interactions, and definitely not so good exchanges with those people, I can honestly say that I am better because of it. So I went through that period as far as in the workplace after my divorce for about 17, 18 years, and then figured out, going back from a little child, I've always loved to talk. I've always loved to write. I believe I could be a speaker. I believe I could be a writer. I believe I could be an author. I believe I could be a bestseller. Different things which have all materialized, all came to life. And now I have my own business, which is in other words by Stone. And the reason why it is titled named in other words by Stone, because Stone is my maiden name. So that's how the connection is. Because I do have people from time to time that will say, where'd you get Stone from? Well, a couple of things. One, because that is my maiden name, but then also because I am an avid believer in turning stumbling blocks into stepping stones. So that's how I came about with my business, which I started in roughly around 2014, 2015 or so, and just striving to impact positively through my words, work, and wisdom. And now you have me before you.
I love it. Oh my gosh, that's such a good job. And let me just say, I love your energy. And I think, I just want to call that out because so many times I think people decide they're going to be in a bad mood. Like they just decide they're going to take a negative view. They decide they're going to be pessimistic. They decide that they're tired. And I'm not saying that they're not tired, but like it's a choice to do that. And I appreciate the fact that you choose to have that energy that you do. It's one of the things I love about my wife is she is similar to you and she makes me a better person because I can be kind of curmudgeonly on my left to my own devices. And I think I'm that way by nature. And but it's also one of the reasons I get a lot of stuff done, right? Is because I'm able to block out the rest of the world. And I too followed the professional athlete path. I didn't make it to Major League Baseball, but I was pursuing it. And so I'm very familiar with a lot of the things you talked about. I think it's great to expose our audience to that. But let's go back even further. Um, you were raised by your grandparents. What kind of impact do you think that had on you? I mean, typically, and I'm painting with a very broad brush. This isn't meant to be demeaning or dismissive in any way, shape, or form. But typically, you're raised by your parents, and you're raised by your grandparents. So that kind of robbed you of a grandparent relationship with those folks. Overall, how did you think that went? How do you think that impacted you?
Well, now that I'm going through therapy because of it,
Mm,
I will say that looking back and having the conversation with my mom, who is now deceased, because I didn't understand that either. Like, how do you not want your child with you? Or, is your life like so busy to where you don't even want to be bothered with your child? And for a long time, and a lot of years before her death, I was um, I was very angry.
mm,
So, and I think in a lot of ways, that's why I acted out the way that I did. Brilliant, which I know there like a lot of people that are brilliant across this earth. I believe that when we have those disconnects, such as not having not only my mom, but it's like not having my mom or my dad in my life.
mm,
Again, kudos, and I am so thankful for my grandparents having the strength to say, well, yeah, we will take her and we will do the best that we can with her. And I mean, my life, it wasn't that it was bad. It's just that there were so many things you look at as a child, like you said, hey, Johnny or Jane has their parents were my biological parents, not grandparents, but biological parents. And then just other things that come into play with that. I think over time, one of the things that I'm learning and I've learned is it's not how you start, but it's what you gain during the course of and then how you finish. So one of the things that I was able to do was not only forgive my mom, because we were able to have one really, really good conversation prior to her death, and in which she mentioned to me that that was the reason, because she was foolish and she didn't think she could care for me in the appropriate way, and that's why she left me for so many years, and we had such a up and down relationship during that time. I was able to forgive her, but then mostly I was able to forgive myself, because regardless of whether or not I forgive her, if I couldn't forgive myself for being so bitter and so resentful towards my parents, how was I going to, move forward or do anything productive in life? And definitely, how do you stand before people when, you aren't able to or willing to work out or work through your own issues? So there's many, many, many issues surrounding that. One of the things that I'm learning in therapy now is you can't be responsible for other people's deficiencies or their flaws or their faults. And then you can't take that weight on because I'm having to dismantle, to reassemble, to remove, to replace, to release my own stuff. And then when we take on, the weight or the deficiencies for other people, it's just not good.
Yeah, no, I love that. And one of the things I say a lot is holding a grudge is like drinking poison and expecting your enemy to die. It only hurts you, right? Drinking the poison only hurts you. And it's easy to say that. It's a lot harder for a lot of folks to do that. And so, connecting it back to sports, I learned that when I played baseball because baseball is a game filled with failure. Like if you fail 7 out of 10 times as a hitter, they pay you hundreds of millions of dollars. Like if you fail 7 out of 10 times, that's what hitting 300 means. And so you have to learn to have a confidence going forward, even when you've been failing over and over and over again. And you got to pick yourself up and go back after it. And the best way to do that is to take the feedback, learn, apply the feedback to future endeavors, and forget the rest of it. And that's an easier thing to do in sports than it is in life, for sure. But it's exactly the same lesson. And I love the fact that you were able to establish a relationship with your mom and have those kinds of conversations with her that that's so good for her and for you. I think it's awesome that you were able to do that, and I appreciate you sharing all the stuff you just shared with our listeners because it's so valuable. A lot of people expect other people to be perfect. Like I'm not perfect. I fuck a lot of stuff up all the time. I fucked a lot of stuff up today, right? Like, and I'm pretty good at what I do now. But it's not the easiest thing in the world, and we've got to show grace to other people. And like you said, I think you said it brilliantly. We've got to show grace to ourselves. We're not going to get it right all the time. We're not going to be perfect. And if we hold ourselves to that impossible standard, we're we're cooked before it all starts. You also said, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. One of my favorite sayings is the only time the score matters is at the end of the game. You don't get any points for winning the first quarter. It doesn't mean a goddamn thing until the clock says zero. Like you can't get hung up if you get off to a slow start. You got to fight your way back into whatever it is that you're doing. And I think that's awesome that you do that. Did you find when you were raising your children, did you find that you took things or lessons that you thought about from your upbringing and did them differently? Like, did it impact how you parented your children?
I'm going to be 100% honest right now. Not how I parented my children, but how I'm suggesting my children parent their children. They do not let me live it down. They do not let me live it down. It's just like, well, you didn't do that when we were young, or you didn't do that for me. But as I mentioned, you learn, you live, you learn, you grow, and then you adopt, or you should be adopting new things, right? New ways to, whether it's to speak or handle or react or act. And it's unfortunate that this knowledge, this seated knowledge that I have now, I did not have a third of it. I didn't even have a fourth of it with my children. So my children got the exact same thing that I got. But now it's like I mentioned to them, but being able to break the generational cycles and curses and chains and thought patterns and habits and whatever else, that's all that is really about. So no, they did not get this great version of Angela, but my grandchildren, who affectionately call me Nunu, they're getting 100% of it.
That's
Oh
awesome.
my
Yeah.
God.
And look,
My children are gonna, when they hear this, they're gonna be like, oh my God,
we finally got it on tape.
finally got it on tape. You suck.
Oh my gosh, totally. Yeah, and look, so my wife and I have been together 33 years and we raised three boys. And I'm fortunate that my wife is such a good parent because my kids would have been in therapy forever if it was just me. Like they probably would have been locked up. Like we can't help these kids. They've been fucked up so badly that they're
Oh,
just lost causes. And my wife was such a good parent. And like I get it, nobody's perfect. She's not perfect either, but she always showed empathy and she was always so intuitive and understood kind of what they really needed, not what they wanted, and was so good about providing that. She did such a good job. So I get very and deservedly I get very little credit for as good as my boys turned out. I did teach them how to be good men, but that's different than bringing them up as good boys. And she did all of it when they were kids. But so you, I mean, so your life changed very quickly when your husband was drafted and were you married before he was drafted?
no, and actually he went undrafted, but no, we were not.
Okay.
We had been dating we had been dating probably about 3 years. 3 years prior to him going undrafted into the NFL for the Denver Broncos. Shout out to Dan Reeves. He was the one, even though he's deceased now. He took a chance on my ex, and he actually had a pretty decent career, through the NFL.
Yeah, that's awesome and good for him. And like I know how much you supported him during that too, because the life of a professional athlete looks glamorous. It is not glamorous in almost every instance. Are there parts of it that are glamorous? Sure, but I would say it's under 20% that's glamorous. The other 80% is rough. But you personally, your life changed whenever he inked that first big contract, and it changed immediately. What was that like?
It was scary.
Mm.
It was exciting. It was, for me, mostly walking into a new world where I shared this, and I've shared it across many platforms, that it was my first time walking into homes where the ceilings were so great and so vast to where I was just like, wow, what is this? Like, I was comparing literally everything, to my surroundings at that particular time. Met some wonderful people, met some not so wonderful people,
Mm.
but the overall experience, if I, in my capacity today, if someone were to say, hey, would you like to go back and retrace every step, every level, every stage, every phase of your life, the answer would be an emphatic yes.
Mm.
Because the lessons and the experience that I gleaned from that particular lifestyle, I would be lying if I did not say a lot of who I am today and how, in the framework of my professional life, my personal life, my spiritual life, my mental life, it comes from the physical side as it relates to professional football, or just professional athletes in general, and just how they think. Because you hit the nail on the head when you talked about it earlier. You said, we fail 7 out of 10 times, but you keep on hitting, and they still pay you so many millions. And once you understand that about life in general, whether you are a professional athlete or not, you understand that, yes, failing is, I think, very devastating. It can be discouraging, it's disappointing, but it's not the end unless you allow whatever that was that took you out to take you out. And why? And the reason why I say that is because, so something took me out, but it didn't take me out, because it took
Mm.
me out. But now I'm getting stronger. I'm getting better. I'm learning from it. And you best believe I'm going to get back up, and I'm going to throw harder punches. I'm going to walk with my back even more strong. I'm going to align and connect with other people so that I can overtake Goliath. Bottom line. So that's what I
Oh yeah.
love. That's what I love about, just the sports in general, because I believe it was, and I'm sure other people said it before him, but I believe Michael Jordan said, he missed X amount of shots, but nobody talks about that. They only talk about the 7,000 or the 10,000 that he took and he made, or whatever that number was, but he took an ungodly amount before that. And not only that, I mean, how many championships did he actually won? Did he actually win, as opposed to, how many did he lose? But nobody really talks about that. And so I
Right.
think, just as a society, once we get that in our brain, like, you are going to fail. There's a lot of things that are going to happen that will not go in the flow that you want. But, you're only horrible if you just give up and be like, oh, life is just so, unfair and whatever else. Yes, it is. And it's going to continue to be that way. It's not going to just, lie down at your feet and be like, oh, I'm sorry, this is Angela Marshall. Let me just give her leeway to be, to be and to do. It's not going to happen.
Oh my gosh, totally. So, I mean, yeah, so the financial part of it is one thing, but there are a ton of expectations placed on spouses of professional athletes. And you came from a world where like none of that, you couldn't have been familiar with any of that and you had to get indoctrinated very quickly. Like talk about that process a little bit. Just I know like you talked about going into houses and now you're around multimillionaires and billionaires in some instances and you're this little girl from Augusta, Georgia and you're expected to attend social functions and fundraisers and corporate dinners and all the things that now you have to acclimate yourself to. What was that process like for you?
It was very grueling. And it was one that, I will admit, even though nice people, don't get me wrong, I always have to throw that disclaimer out there just in case a little sound bite gets taken out of context. The events, the fundraisers, the people, the staff, the sports world is not a bad place. Is not it wasn't like, oh my gosh, I'm having a horrible experience because of that. It was solely because of me, how I
Mm,
thought about different things. It was um, the intimidating factor, like you mentioned, coming from a household that at that particular time, back in the, because I was born in the early 70s to mid 80s, having a salary of 14,000, which was considered poverty line. Now again, I didn't know. I mean, I'm young. That's my surroundings. That was my box at that particular time. I had not gone beyond that to know, oh wow, there's people out here making 20 and 50 and 100 and a million. Like, I didn't, even though I was watching TV, but still, it wasn't really real to me.
yeah.
So having that mindset of, I'm, I don't really fit in, or, what are people really thinking about me? And then my ex on top of that. Now we are the best of friends now. I do want to put that disclaimer out there now, but the extra added pressure to look a certain way, to conform in different ways as a family, it was a lot. And I didn't. I mean, I never conformed. I never really got comfortable within that. And again, not a knock against any of the other wives, the other players, or anything like that. It was solely and purely me, just how I thought.
Yeah, no, I love that you take ownership of that. That doesn't mean it was any less difficult or any less intimidating, but to your point, like when you look back on it, you say, hey, if I had just thought about it differently, or if I had just given myself a chance to take these actions, things could have gone differently and maybe it would have been a different experience or whatever. But like your world, it's hard to explain to people when you're not around it because you don't understand. All you see is the lights and the TV cameras and all the other bullshit that is public facing. You don't see like your spouse being gone, or and especially with your husband, your ex-husband being a free agent. Like that's a tenuous existence, especially that first year, because like in baseball, I would have been, I call it an apple and a roadmap guy. So in baseball, there's minor leagues, right? So I know there's practice squad in the NFL, but those are very limited. It's not like the minor leagues where you've got all these guys playing all over the country trying to fight their way up. to the major leagues. And the contracts, it's a 40-man roster. And the guys that are, so there's a 25-man roster in baseball. And then there's 15 guys that are on what are called two-way contracts. And when you play in the majors, you get bumped to the major league minimum. When you go down to the minors, you go to your minor league deal. And then everybody else is on a shitty minor league contract. Like when I was, we're about the same age. I was born in 1972, so I'm 53 years old. And when I was playing, it was $925 a month, and it was a $25 per diem, and it was only during the season. That's the other thing people don't understand. You don't get paid in the off season. They pay you all your money during those whatever it is, 24 weeks that you're working, and then you go 28 weeks without a paycheck. So you better budget because there ain't no money coming in. Granted, it's a lot of money in those 24 weeks, but it ain't nothing during the other 28. And so a guy like me, they would have paid 10 grand to sign a contract and then put me on a minor league contract and said, if you can fight your way up, make it to camp, we'll give you a uniform and give you a chance. But by the way, you're going to be competing against this guy over here that we already paid $500,000 just to put his name on a contract. And you got to be a lot better than him because we've already invested $500,000 in that guy. It's gone. It's out of our bank account and in his. So there had to have been even more pressure on you because of just that whole situation. And I can empathize. I can empathize with what that must have been like. When did you have kids when this first happened, or did you start your family after he signed?
No, we had children when we were, well, actually, he had graduated from high school. I was still in high school. So
Mm,
his first year at University of Georgia, when he went on to college after high school, our son was born, and then our daughter was born 2 years later. So
gotcha.
no,
So you got the jump. You got the jump on it.
man, I like that. But well, I'm gonna be honest. Like, even though there was talks, because he was an outstanding, I'm not gonna diminish him. He was an exceptional and an elite athlete. He ended up. The reason why he went undrafted is because he broke his leg. It was like, I think they said a fibula or something like that in whatever the front part of his leg is against LSU.
Yeah.
And so no one, like all the team doctors, when he went to the combine, no one would touch him. But prior to that, he was touted to go. So his rookie year, I mean, he was smashing records. He was, supposed to be the next it. However, somewhere along the line, he got a little bit bigger than life and was not doing what he should have been doing to not maintain, because in that lifestyle or just in life in general, maintaining is nothing. You got to excel. You got to go above and beyond to stay seated. I mean, to make
Yep.
sure that you're where you want to be in life. So somewhere along the line, it just, went a little different. His priorities went a little different, and it showed. And when they eventually traded him to the New York Giants, which was a good thing at the time because Dan Reeves was already there, so Dan actually accepted that trade. So it's kind of like he
Mm,
followed him, everywhere he went. It was just, things don't always go the way that we think that they should go. But I just am a firm believer in, even when the curve balls are thrown, or it's lemons, you have to turn around and you have to make something really, really great. Now, whether or not that's lemon, it could be lemonade or it could be lemon drops. I don't know,
oh,
which is
totally.
even better.
Totally. I love it. I love it. Yeah, and look, that's a short career too. So when I think you said it was a 7-year career, at
Right.
what point were you still married when his career ended?
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes. And I mean, I'm going to be honest, even during our courtship before we got married and all of that, it was just up and down, because here you have what I consider still two young adults trying to figure themselves out. And then
Yep.
we have two eyeballs on us. We're trying to figure out life for them as well. Then we're thrust into NFL lifestyle, where it's, different things, and still not being able to grow together, to work, common ground, trying to figure out how do we put these, puzzle pieces together so that we can both be better, and then be better for be better individually, be better for our family, and definitely be better for the children and give them what they need. It was a lot. It was a
Oh
lot.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, totally makes sense. And that's the other thing a lot of people don't think about is, so let's just say, for argument's sake, that I'm a plumber. I start my career and I work as a plumber for 40 years, 50 years, and then I retire. If you start as a professional athlete, your job ends if you run the table and it goes awesome, your job ends at 40, and you don't have anything else to do with your life, and you've got to reinvent yourself. Now, for most of them, I don't know where it is now, but the NFL career used to be, the average career used to be under 3 years long. And so you're now 25 with no direction. Like, you got to go choose and do something else. So you find yourself in that situation. How does that go? Like, talk a little bit about that.
Well, how it went was we ended up getting a divorce. Again, the best thing ever, though, I'm not an advocate. Let me throw that disclaimer out there. I'm not an advocate for a divorce. However, I do believe that when you are draining, you're not adding value, you're not growing, you're not being a benefit to one another, whether it's a marriage or not, that could be business partnership or organizations that you're a part of, or whatever. If there's no growth and there's no true heart to be in service to each other, and to just be as peaceable as peaceful as possible, it's time to cut ties and just do things a little differently. So unfortunately and fortunately, that's what we did. But it wasn't just because he was no longer in the league.
No, I get that.
I can't,
Sure.
yeah, I can't make that any plainer, because obviously there are going to be people that talk, and there are people that talk, and I have gotten called everything under the sun for that. Oh, he no longer had money, or he no longer played. Like, no, we were dealing with stuff way like high school, before he even went to college, and was an outstanding athlete there, and then went into the NFL. I mean, it was just a lot of things. So
You
we
know
did
what I
not
said?
handle.
Yeah. You know what I say to those
Yeah,
people, Angela? I say, fuck them. That's exactly
that's
what it
right.
is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think who was it that was like, oh, and I don't know whether or not you know this rapper. I've seen her on different things. Can't really understand her, but I understood this one part. And she was like, I got a hundred or a million and one haters, and they all can kiss my ass. Yeah, well, I agree. I agree
Yeah, it's
100%. Because at
it's
some point, yeah, you do. You have to, just block out the noise, and, not really worry about, not be concerned with what people say, because I know the truth. And then the people that are closest to me know the truth. So there's a lot of false things out there that was said then, that is still being said, but like, I'm thriving. I'm not paying that any attention.
Yeah, well, I mean, they weren't in your bedroom, they weren't in your kitchen, they weren't in the conversations that you were in. They don't know anything about. They can make all the judgments they want, and I say fuck them. Just fuck them. It's that straightforward. But so you find yourself divorced with two kids, and at this point, I don't think you have much practical work experience, right?
No, zero.
Other than that, things were going well, right?
Correct.
So
But
talk a little. Yeah, I was gonna say, talk a little bit about what you did. Like, I know it's action that got you to where you are now. I'm hoping you can talk about the actions you took at a really tough time in your life.
I have a wonderful friend. She was my childhood friend. We are still very, very good friends now. And thankfully, at that particular time in my life, she had a temp, had started her, she and her family had started a temp agency.
Hmm.
I remember calling her in 1999, because that's when I filed for divorce, November of 1999. And I said, I need a job, and I'm going to need a job that will support me and my two children. Yeah, child, you don't need no job. What are you talking about? You're not gonna do anything. You talking about you gonna leave that man? Y'all will be back together in a month or 2 months, and then I'll have, be trying to fill that position or whatever. And I said, no, like I'm serious. Like I'm ready to go a different route and really just take control and take charge of my life. And so she said, well, okay, I'm gonna connect you with, I guess, the person like a project manager or who would, align you with certain jobs that they felt like, okay, well, yeah, Angela would be a good fit for this one, or no, maybe not so much for this one. And her name was Felicia. And I'll never forget it. She had the exact same conversation. Now, mind you, I'm going in the office to what I'm thinking, fill out an application and, try, maybe get a job like the next day or whatever. And they are pretty much not necessarily trying to convince me to stay, but it's just like, you're not serious. You mean you're gonna leave that lifestyle and leave that man and blah 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 and all this other kind of stuff? And I was like, yeah, like I'm so serious. So she sent me to the plant, which was a pharmaceutical plant that I eventually resigned from, but I resigned 16 years later. So I stayed there, moved up the ladder. I mean, started out like Drake say, started from the bottom. Now I'm here. I started out.
Totally. Yes.
I started out. I mean, like from a former NFL wife. Now, started out here, worked my way, did different things, did different jobs, tried to keep my nose clean. I think I was only written up twice my entire 16 year career while I was there, which is good for me. But I it was it was quite the experience. And eventually what happened was being there at that plant. So I was a temp for like 4 years. No, yeah, 4 years, and then they hired me on permanent. And I met some amazing people who I'm still very, very close with, that are really good friends, that gave me a different perspective, different outlook in life, and helped me to change and to evolve even more.
Yeah, but so it's awesome that you met those people and they helped you. I would argue that you had to be in the right mindset and you had to be willing to do the work in order for that to happen. And I think it's important to call that out here because you just kind of talked about it. You went from Augusta, Georgia, and then you're in what a lot of people would consider the upper crust of American society, right? Professional sports, the NFL in particular, is like one of the premier destinations or premier worlds that people fantasize about living in. And you're in it. Like you wound up in it kind of overnight. Like you're not, you're not dumb. You knew there was a chance he'd make it, but like the odds were not in your favor, like you talked about. And one injury could end the whole damn thing. You live that for a while. Then it goes away like it always does. Like that's just Father Time is undefeated in those situations. And you realize, hey, this isn't a relationship for me to be in. I've got 2 kids. It's time for me to get out and do my own thing. And it's so interesting to me that people, even people close to you, would be like, "What are you thinking?" Like, there's more to life than money. God damn it! People got to realize that it's not about the money. And the other thing is, the world you think that you see is not the world that exists. Instagram is fucking bullshit. TikTok is bullshit. Movies are bullshit. The entertainment industry, the sports industry, they're bullshit. Those people are full of shit just like you. They have marriage problems. They have drug problems. They have relationship problems. They're just as fucked as you are. They just have a lot of money, so they don't have to worry about it as much financially. They're just as screwed as you are, man. It's people just don't get that. And I appreciate and respect that you were willing to take control of your life and say, hey, I got to start over. It's time for me to rebuild it. And then you took those steps and put yourself in a position to meet these people, to build a career, to improve your lot in life. And I just think it's awesome that one, you're so willing to do it. And two, now you're willing to talk about it and let other people learn from it. I want to make sure people don't forget it. I want to make sure they don't miss it because you're self-deprecating when you talk about it, and you deserve more credit than you're taking. I want to make sure that that's called out. So, you're working your way up at the plant, but at some point you look and say, "Hey, you know what? This isn't what I want to do long term." Talk a little bit about that thought process.
Well, I had already been writing, like I've journaled my entire life.
Hmm.
So there was a very good friend of mine. We were on the same shift at the plant. And every so often I would allow her to read some of my work. And the way that she was gloating and doting, and it was like, why are you not writing? Why have you not written a book? Why are you still here? Like she kept saying that. And I'm like, now rewind just a little bit. During my stay, during my time there at the plant, at the end of each year, they would have what they would call development performance reviews, DPR. So what you as an employee would have to do is write up a bunch of stuff like what you did, capture your entire year, and then at the beginning of the new year, your higher up would look at it, evaluate it, and then see how much of the pie, the bonus pie you got.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, check this out. And this was another thing that catapulted me too. So for many, many years, I was at that plant for 16, 17 years. So for about the last 10, 12 years, when we would do the write-ups, people started on my team and then beyond started to notice that whenever I would write up my evaluation, our upline would not send it back. Mine would go through the first time and whatever else. And so they're like paying me to write theirs.
Side hustle. One of the original side hustles.
Paying me. So again, all of this stuff towards the end, especially after like my mom died actually in 2013. But before she died, I was already thinking about, what's my next move going to be? Because I'm here. I don't feel like I feel like I'm at the end, like I've done all that I needed to do here. I feel like there's something else for me to do. Little did I know that was going to be me striking another match and blowing my world up and starting from the bottom again and working my way up, becoming an entrepreneur.
Yep.
Because the allure of it all, where people are like, oh, you get to schedule your own time and all this. Okay, yeah, you get to do all of that because there's so much time that you have, but then you're also very broke if you don't schedule appropriately with your time. So it's just a lot of things in between that. But I knew that there was something really special with me and this writing, because me doing that, and then I started writing speeches for people. I started writing slogans for people. It's doing resumes, biographies for people, CVs for people. So I'm like, I believe I could really, really, if I marketed enough and really threw my time into it, I believe I could do okay, especially now that at that particular time the children were adults, so it's not like they were in my pockets like they were back when, even though I was still had the grandchildren and everything. So it's just about me recognizing and realizing it's time for me to make another change. And I did that. I'll never forget when I turned in my resignation letter. My supervisor at the time, wonderful guy. However, one of the first words he said to me, he was like, I'm going to hold on to this for 2 weeks. Now, I've never heard anybody say, we're going to give you 2 weeks. It's like, I'm gonna let you hold on. I mean, I'm gonna hold on to this, for 2 weeks because the benefits, which the benefits were very good at the plant. The money at this point, the way that I've worked myself, worked my way up, the
Yeah.
money was very good. So, but I told him, I said, well, at the end of the 2 weeks that you're saying you're gonna hold on to it, I'm still walking out that door.
Yeah.
So you need to turn it in now, because then the company, you know what I'm saying? Like if you're gonna hold on to it for 2 weeks, when I get ready to walk out, which I think was March 14th or March 16th, I'm walking out. And I did. And I counted when I badged out for the last time and then, went into the little guard shack, turned my badge in. After I opened the door, I counted the steps from there to my vehicle, and it was 106 steps that I took. So I call that. So I termed that. I talk about it in my book as well. I termed that 106 steps to when I blew my life up again. Because I talk about like when I filed for divorce, and that's not a negative connotation towards my ex, like saying, oh well, I blew it up because of him or he blew it up or whatever. No, this is me. This is me within my own mind, my own emotional space, and just saying, okay, it's time for me to do something different. And I did.
I love that. I just want to make a comment real quick because you just talked about a behavior that we see over and over and over again from people on our podcast. And one of the things, I think we talked about it. My real job, I'm the CEO of a company that owns and operates grocery stores in Chicago, but I love doing the podcast because I really just want people to take control of their lives. And the beautiful thing about that is they get to choose what that means. Like no one, it's not my place to tell you to go be a ballerina or a plumber or a lawyer or a teacher or an author or whatever. You get to choose it. My whole point is you should be intentional about it. You shouldn't ride the current of life and just let it push you wherever it takes you. And you just talked about the fact that it's time for me to take control. And you talked about the fact that when things have gone wrong in your life, you've looked inwardly and said, hey, I had to contribute to this in some way. How did I contribute to it so that I can improve on that the next time I try and I can maybe avoid some of the pitfalls that I fell into this time? And I think that it's not a mistake. It's not a coincidence that you have that mindset and that you've been able to reinvent yourself as necessary as you've gone through life. And I think it's really important for our listeners. I want to make sure they don't miss what you just said, because again, you don't take a lot of credit for it. I know you're not looking for a lot of credit for it. I know you're looking to teach other people from your experiences, which is an awesome thing. Which kind of leads me to the book. So let's talk about the book. I know that writing is important to you, and it sounds like I will say this. It sounds like writing has always given you a purpose, and that's what people are looking for the most in their life is they want to have a purpose. They want to know what it's about or what they're doing it for, and writing has provided that for you. So how did you settle on kind of a biography and telling your story as your book, your first book?
Well, actually, it's my second. That was the autobiography is my second book. The first book is poetry. It's a compilation of nonfiction. So what I did was I took all of my work, all of my thoughts that I had journaled,
Mm,
because I just kind of wanted to test the waters to see what that looked like. And I did that book first, which that book is Lust, Lessons, Love, and Life. So I did that one first.
but
It went
sorry,
well.
lust. Sorry, it's lust,
Lust,
comma.
lessons,
Say it
lust,
again.
lust, lessons, love, and life.
Got it. Okay.
So I tested the waters, wanted to see how that, publishing that book, throwing it out there, marketing it. And I was able to, when I wrote that book, published it, I got on about 200 different platforms
Mm,
just from that book.
yep.
So I said, if I were to tell certain parts of my life and my growth and my evolution, and then, how do I get myself more known? Ding, 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 NFL life. So that's how I ended up the story and life of an ex NFL wife. So that's how I put that book, that book together. It, I honestly did not intend to speak about it. I wanted to write the book, become this really behind the scenes, I guess, author, if you would. And I really thought I was like, okay, well, I'm probably going to go away quietly now because nobody's really going to be interested in this side of it because it's not messy. It's not a tell all about him or bashing
Yeah.
him in any
Right.
way, about bashing that lifestyle in any way. But it actually did really well. and it surprised, I mean, hell, it surprised me too, because I was just like, wow, there's still people that are interested, even though, um, I'm not really revealing anything as it relates to my ex. Like if you read the book, it all flows towards me
Yep.
and taking accountability and different things like that. So the book, the autobiography, again, like I said, is my second book. It's just more so writing for me is a way out. It is true freedom for me. And I just did not recognize that, because even from a little girl, when I would write my thoughts in diaries and journals and little memo books, it was just a way for me. Like I couldn't, to certain people, I couldn't express myself, because during my era, I don't know about how you were raised, but for mine, it was, children should be seen and not heard. So the things that I encourage my children and my grands, like express yourself with tact and respect, but express yourself. I wasn't allowed to do that. So I wrote. I mean, I wrote too, like whether it was profanity or whatever else. And a couple of times my grandmother actually caught me and beat the crap out of me. But, at least I was able to get out my thoughts, which I think in a world that, and this is my opinion, in a world that wants you to be silent or wants you to suppress how you truly feel about certain things, I mean, writing is a true way out. So that's how I looked at becoming a writer. And that's why I'm such an amazing ghostwriter now, because I get into people's heads and their thoughts, and I know certain things, and I'm just like, oh, okay, well, I can reword, or I can embellish, or I can, make this a little bit more alluring for you, because I'm just so phenomenal with words.
Yeah, I love that. And I appreciate you cluing me in on the first book. So it sounds like that was a deeply personal book. I mean, the autobiography got it. Like, I'm not saying it's not personal, but it sounds like the first book was really personal.
It
Was
is.
that, um, I don't know if scary is the right word, but I mean, that's, putting yourself out there in a pretty vulnerable way. How did you feel about that?
Well, exactly what you said. I was afraid. Um, I was like more so intimidated, because I'm thinking to myself, well, people already have this particular perception about me anyway. What are they going to think now, that
Mm,
I'm putting out? Because the book, I mean, that particular book, if you read it, like it, you'll be able to see a lot of the ways that I believe, the values. You'll more most importantly, you'll see my growth, because from
yep.
the beginning, that how I wrote, and towards the end, you'll be able to absolutely capture that evolution. But yeah, I remember my publisher, when I first wrote it, he was like, you sure you want to put this out there? And I said, yeah. He said, because you can't take it back. And once it's out there in black and white and, in print for the world, it's there. And even if you try to take it off the shelves or whatever, he was like, somebody somewhere, it's not like, they won't be able to tie it back to you or whatever. And so he was like, I tell you what, take one more night, read it. And if you say push the button, we're gonna push the button, we're gonna upload it, and we're gonna make it a book. And so sure enough, I read it that night. I laughed, I cried, I looked at some of the things, I was like, dang, that's right. I forgot about this. And yeah, and I mean, that first thing that morning, 6 a.m., I sent him an email, and I was like, full speed ahead. At that particular time, the book that I was reading, I want to say it was the 48 Laws of Power, I think. If not, I'm pretty sure it was something by Robert Greene that that I was reading. And it told a story of a particular platoon or regiment that they went to war, but they went over on the ship, and then their commander told them, burn the ship, burn the boat. So then that way they had no choice but to win, because like, what are you gonna retreat to? So I kind of took that literally, and I just told him, I was like, I'm just burning, I'm burning the boat. And so from time to time in my
I love
life,
that.
yeah, I mean, so many situations, even now, different things where I'm just like, I'm burning the boat. I'm just gonna go for it. It's the equivalent of going for mine, but I just call it burning the boat. Hey, I'm here to burn the boat.
I love that. I know that that's what Cortez did when he got to Mexico. Um, so and you're right. Like he burned the ships and said, "All right, we either win or we're dead. Those are your choices. So let's go win." Yeah, I love that. Um, have you written? Is it the? Have you written more? Have you authored more books? Sorry, I'm trying to ask the question the right way. Attributed to you because I want to talk about your ghostwriting and what you do. But attributed to you, do you have more than the two books
No,
published?
no, no. Yeah. Now that I'm a featured author in Women Who Lead, so that would be, I guess, kind of like a third book because I do have a full chapter dedicated to my life, my struggles and successes in it. But all of my other 12 clients that I ghostwrite for, yeah, I'm not credited in any of those books.
Yeah, but I mean, that's how much you love writing. Is it you love the process of writing? It sounds like because you're doing it for other people. How did that evolve from writing your first book to I know you're writing performance reviews to get them pushed through because they got accepted, but how did you turn that into a business?
So my son actually has a website business where he does all things social media, building websites, uh, everything as it relates to, I think, digital. I forgot what he called it. And he's gonna listen to this and be like, Mom, that was your moment for you to talk about your son. Now, if you had asked me something about the grandchildren, I'd be all over it. But so one of his clients who contacted him and he was building this website, he said, hey, do you do any word content? And then he was like, no. He said, but my mom is a writer. I think maybe she could help, maybe she could help you. And he's like, what do you have? And he was like, well, I was on the Oprah show many, many years ago, and I have this project and blah, 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 and this, that, and other. And we like, wait a minute, time out. You're on the Oprah show many years ago. This must be a big deal. And so my son set it up, connected me with this particular person, and he was like, yeah, he said, I want a ghostwriter. So that was my first one, but it went so well and seamless until I don't have the horror stories like how some of the other writers it's like, oh my god, like the client was or this was a mess or whatever. And because I love writing, like seriously, you don't understand, like I go to appointments early and I like 30 minutes, 45 minutes early. My grandchildren, their sports events or their events, I go early and either I'm sitting in my car or I'm sitting in wherever the event is. I take my journals in or I take whatever and I'm writing. Either I'm writing affirmations, I'm writing words, I'm writing letters to myself, I'm writing or whatever, just about my day, what I'm seeing, what's around me. It's like my brain absolutely breathes words like constantly. Now, do I get good rest and all of that? Absolutely. When it's time for me to shut it down, I can shut it down. But I'm just a phenomenal wordsmith to where, the ghostwriting was really easy. What was a little bit difficult for me was stepping out and telling my truths or telling my different messages. That was difficult because I was always worried or concerned about how people perceived me. Because like I knew, like people are talking and they have their own narrative for you. But I'm like, but golly, then I go out, I step out and I'm like, no, I was a horrible mother, or oh, I didn't do this, or oh, I failed that as a wife, or oh, you add that on. And then especially now in the whole age of clipping and sound bites and whatever else, and then you got to listen to her in her own words. She say she ain't shit. It's just it's the craziness of it all. So that was back then when I first started out, which that was I think like 2018 when I did my first event where it was a women's empowerment, but the looks on a lot of the attendees' faces as I shared certain things, it was like, people that start out very strict or very straight, the more you talk and they resonate with what you're going through, and then they see that you're just like them, it's like they relax. And you can actually see that. If you're paying attention, you can actually see that. And then you see the nods, and then you see the, oh my God. And then, there's the clapping and the agreements or the agreeing. And I said, wow, hell, I'm good at this too. So that's
So
how I
yeah,
began. Yeah, that's how I began the journey of all of that, the writing and the ghost writing, and then the speaking.
yeah. You've talked a lot about writing, which is awesome. Talk a little bit about the speaking. So, like, what type of engagements do you speak at? What subjects do you speak on? If you're not hired to speak, like a lot of speeches are like, hey, we want you to talk about this, or this is the takeaway we want the group to have. Left to your own devices, if you're going to speak, what do you speak on?
So now I speak about living vicariously through yourself. That is the main thing. Prior to that, it was the story and life of an ex NFL wife.
Sure.
Because remember, I gotta get my feet wet. I gotta get out there. I gotta, create the hype and create the interest. And obviously, if I had just said, okay, well, I want to share with people on how to live vicariously through themselves or whatever, nobody cares. But the moment I said, hey, I'm a former ex NFL wife, like, oh, she got something to say, or she has something to
Right.
share. So living vicariously through yourself, and a lot of my platform is about, it comes from sports. Like I have making positive plays every day. That's normal. That's usually for younger attendees, anywhere from like middle school to maybe 2021, where I talk about making positive plays every day. But living vicariously through yourself is the big one. Then I have the 4Ds, which is, decide, make up your mind, which is so critical. Like when people ask me, how did you do this? Or how do you do that? I'm like, decide.
Mm.
I don't like, there's no, luck of the Irish or no magical formula. It's like, make a decision. That's the first thing. So decide, determine, like what I call the 4Ds. And there's different platforms. There's an event that I'm going to be doing in October, and it is actually for sexual assault victims. What they want me to talk about at that particular event, it has to do with resilience and perseverance. And then how do you go forward? How do you move forward? And how do you continue to move forward? Because I try to tell audiences and viewers and just people in general, whether they're close to me, and then myself, like I'm looking in the mirror and I'm having these conversations with myself. I think you and I talked about it when we had our introduction some months ago. This isn't like I'm standing in front of people or even in front of you and your audience like I'm this guru. I'm going through this stuff every single day. And it's
That's right.
often second by second and minute by minute. I do not wake up and it's like everything's coming up roses and I've got it all figured out. No, like I have to really, really talk to myself and say, no, you're not allowed to, be woe is me or be a victim today. Or yeah, you need to, sit in your emotions, sit in your feelings for a minute, but then you need to get up and you need to do something, you need to do something about it. So it's just a constant reprogramming, or I call it retraining my brain constantly all the time. Really kind of rubs me a different way when, people are like, guru or SME, subject matter expert, blah, blah, blah. It's like, are you really? because at some point, now don't get me wrong, there's a lot that you can take away from me, your viewers, your listeners, my family members, whomever else, because I am evolving and growing and I'm elevating, but I struggle too, a whole lot. Matter of fact, my son and I were just talking about this the other day, and I told him, I said, duality is in everybody. The difference with duality, the reason why I haven't killed anybody is because I decided not to kill no damn body. you know, there, there's, I mean, but it's there. Let's be real. It's there. The evil, the good, the bad, the happy, the sad, the up, the down. It's in every single person. I don't care who you looking at, from the bishop to the pope to the presidents to the whomever you look at with the glossy eyes and just figure that they're just the most greatest person in the world. There is duality in everybody, but they decide, like, I decide I'm not going to steal, I'm not going to kill, I'm not going to lie, I'm not going to, be a menace to society or whatever. Everything is a decision, period.
Yeah, that's so awesome. I love that approach. I want to make sure we go through the 4Ds, but I say a lot. I say a couple things a lot, and I say them because I think they're right and they're basic. The first one is, it's too bad you didn't know me when I was 20, because I was so smart when I was 20. I knew everything. You didn't even have to ask me. I would just tell you I knew everything. I was 20. And as I've gotten older, I've gotten so dumb, because it turns out I don't know anything. And there's so many people out there that know so much, and they'll give me all this information for free if I'm willing to ask a couple of questions and shut my mouth and listen. And it's such a good approach. And so you had talked about, I'm not the guru. It's funny because the subjects that I think I know a lot about, I tend to be very uh, non-committal on my responses. I'll say, I don't know, but in my experience, here's what I've experienced. And I'll share those experiences, but I rarely give, here's exactly what you should do, because I don't know exactly what you should do. I don't. That's up to you. Like, it's not my place to make those calls. And the second one is, I don't throw stones because I live in a glass house. Like, I got my own set of issues. I got my own set of problems. I am far from perfect. I tell people a lot. You have to be perfect as soon as I do. The good news is you got a while. So, like, I'm not perfect. You don't have to be perfect either. What I want you to be is genuine. And I get along really well with people who are genuine. And a lot of those people see the world very differently than me. They might hold different philosophical views. They might hold different political views. They might hold different ethical views. There's a couple of deal breakers. Like, if you're doing anything bad to a kid, I'll fucking end you. Like, you don't screw with kids. Like, they're defenseless. I don't like men that are degrading and or misogynistic towards women. It's horseshit. That's just their own insecurity projecting onto other people. But short of like major character flaws like that, all I want you to do is be who you are. I'm good with that. Like, I'm really good with that. And there's so few people that do it, that when you run across them, they're worth having in your corner. You can't let stupid things like politics, like I use the Second Amendment to illustrate this point. So there's a camp that says we should ban all guns, and there's a camp that says the Second Amendment is terribly important and it's part of the reason we are a free country. What they both have in common is they don't want innocent people to die from gun violence. Neither of those groups want people to die from gun violence. The argument is about how to accomplish it. So why don't we start from a position that we agree on, which is we all want the same thing. We want people to stop dying. I don't think you're a bad or evil person on either side of that argument. I have my own views, which aren't important. The whole point is we want to work together to come to a good conclusion on that. And I think we spend so much time arguing with each other about the stuff that we disagree on. We forget all the stuff we got in common, right? Like, you've talked so lovingly about your grandkids. Who doesn't love their grandkids? Like, we've all got that in common. Those of us that are old enough to have grandkids, right? We all want our marriages to work out. We want the people in our lives to have happy, productive lives. We all want those things. How we get there, or how we think we get there, is where we differ sometimes. But let's not forget that we got the basic stuff in common. I think it's a message that gets lost a lot, especially in the way our society is structured today. But let's pivot back now to our 4Ds. I'm very curious about these 4Ds. You talked about the first one, which is decide. I want to hear more about the 4Ds.
Decide. The 4Ds are decide, deal. That's deal with whatever you made the decision on. So if I decide I'm going to be healthy, now I have to deal with how many chocolate chip cookies do I get to eat? Do I get to eat any at all? How many times am I going to go work out or go walk or whatever? You have to deal with everything that comes along with that, whether it's, okay, well, the weather is not good enough, or it's bad weather outside. I normally walk outside. Well, find a way to do something inside. You deal with whatever your decision is so that you can achieve that goal. So it's decide, deal, determination. So the determination is going to help you deal, like, I'm determined to be healthy, mentally healthy, physically healthy, socially healthy, romantically healthy, medically healthy, biblically, whatever that area is that you have made that decision in. So I'm determined. And then the destination. The destination is so important, because I think a lot of times when we achieve that goal, and it's going to be ongoing, but when we achieve it to the point to where now it's routine and it's habitual, we don't take the time to recognize ourselves. We don't take the time to pat ourselves on the back and be like, wow, I did that. Or, oh my God, like, let me celebrate this win of mine. So it's decide, deal, determination, and destination. Those are my 4Ds.
I love that. It brings to mind. So I'm a huge golf fan. I love golfing, and it's a great competitive outlet for me at this
Yep.
stage in my life. And the number one golfer in the world right now, and has been for a while, is a guy named Scotty Scheffler. And he just won the British Open, but he was doing a press conference before the British Open. And it was very funny because he's like 29 years old. So he's like literally could be one of my kids. I'm, that much older than him. But he's kind of publicly going through a midlife crisis during this press conference. And he said, don't get me wrong. I want to win so bad, but I don't understand why, because it doesn't mean anything. And as soon as I win one tournament, like 3 minutes later, I'm thinking about how do I win the next tournament, and I don't celebrate anything. And I'm truly about my family. So he's married and he's got a 1-year-old son. And he said, if I ever felt like being the best golfer in the world or playing golf at all made me a worse father or a worse husband, that'd be the last day I would be out here. It wouldn't matter to me because my family is what matters to me. And it was a very mature thing for a guy that's at the top of his sport to kind of recognize those things. But it really looked like a midlife crisis at 29 years old. It was very funny. I showed it to my wife and said, I don't know how you don't love this guy, because he gets it. Like, even at 29, he gets what it's all about. Because to me, and I'm fortunate, this has never been lost on me, and it's why I've been married to my wife for 33 years. Is I've always placed my marriage ahead of everything. Like, it's more important than anything to me. It's more important than my career. I even put it slightly ahead of my children, only because my boys get so much value out of that relationship. Like, it's the center of what we do. And so I've got to keep that strong, and I've got to keep it nurtured. And it's so funny too, because you talked about the destination. Like, you've always got to be striving towards that destination. Just as an example, my wife recently, I brought home some cherries, and I just picked them up on a whim, and she loves the cherries. And it turns out cherries are really good for you. She loves to research things. And so she's like, do you know that cherries are anti-inflammatory? Do you know that cherries do this? Do you know that cherries do that? And so now I make sure there's a couple bags of cherries. Just I'll run up to the store specifically to buy cherries so that my wife has cherries. I don't need to do that. And she doesn't expect it of me, but I care about her. I want her to be healthy. I want her to be happy. And it's an easy thing for me to do that shows that she matters to me. Like little shit like that all the time. That's what makes you or breaks you, you know, like that's what makes or breaks relationships. It's not the big stuff. Most of us understand the big stuff. It's the little stuff that's easy to take for granted. And she does similar things for me. It's certainly not one-sided. Um, but it's just so important in life. And I love the four D's kind of feed right into you've got to deal with it. Like you've got to deal with life every day. There is no crossing the finish line and celebrating. There is no punching into the end zone and spiking the football. You can have a celebration, but there's time left on the clock. You got to keep playing, you know? And you had talked about a little earlier about, I think you said positive plays every day, I think is what you said.
Making positive plays every day. That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. How does one cultivate that mentality?
Decide. It is a decision. It is a choice. Like I can either bring up, rehash old stuff, or see the glasses half empty. I can see the glasses half full, or I can just be thankful that there's something in the glass. And I choose to be thankful that there's something in the glass. Like I don't fall for the whole half empty, half full, or whatever. I'm like, I got something in the glass. So, that's my focal point. But I'm just, the more books I read for personal development, professional development, and otherwise, I'm just very, very into you, that everything is a choice. You must decide. So either you're deciding to be a good person, you're deciding to be a bad person, you're deciding to be, to be faithful, you're deciding to be a cheater, you're deciding to be a good friend, you're deciding to be a bad friend. Either way, and I know sometimes that rubs people the wrong way when I say, well, you know, you made the choice, like either you're this or you're that. Well, what do you mean I decided? Well, okay, well, maybe not with your words, but with your actions. You decided that, you know, I'll just piggyback off what you said earlier. If you did not value your marriage the way that you do, and you took all of this time and into your business, into your podcast, into your business, into this or whatever, and you took away all of that time, or the quality from your home life, your actions are showing that you are not a good husband. You are a bad husband. You are a bad partner. But guess what? You're also deciding that you are a great employee. You're a great employer. You're a great entrepreneur. Everything, in my opinion, is a choice. It is a decision. So, I when I started building on the 4Ds, some people don't really agree or necessarily agree with the decision piece when I say, like, you just made a decision, especially for those that when I got into the coaching, the life coaching and mentor coaching, and the first conversation we were having, like, okay, what's your main goal? I mean, like, number one, what's your main goal? And then they would say it, and then I'm like, okay, how do you achieve it? And then they would say it, and I'm like, well, what's the first thing that you're gonna do? And then they would say it, and then they're like, but, like, wait a minute, you have just decided that all of the things that you just put into play, like you said you wanted this is how you were going to achieve it, this is why you wanted it or whatever. But then you said, but, well, maybe this isn't, or anytime you throw something else into it, to me, that's still a decision. Like, you're deciding that is not going to work because of this particular obstacle that you foresee, which I don't know. I guess, there's certain people out there that can read damn crystal ball. I don't know. And see things on down in the future, because so many times, like with the people um that I mentor, and I'm I'm trying to give assistance to those buts and the, well, maybe not, or it might not. I'm like, golly, like you're doomed from, from the beginning, but you're deciding to be doomed. You're
Yes.
deciding this particular thing is doomed. So it's just, it's a decision. That's just how I feel about everything in life. It is a choice. It is a choice. It was a choice for me to fill out the submission form to potentially be a guest. It was a choice, a decision. Whoever you had looking at it and they decided to move me on forward, because I'm sure there's tons that don't. I get it. I understand. And then, it's a decision. Okay, now we got a time, which I could have said, well, no, I don't want to schedule time. That would have been a choice in the wrong direction. Or you could have said, no, I don't want her on, or what. Everything is a decision. It's a choice.
Yeah, I love that. And people want to abdicate that choice like they're helpless. And that's just not true. I think that's one of the reasons why there's so many unhappy people now is that they've bought into a narrative that they didn't sign on to. And they're not making choices for themselves. They're making choices because they're worried about what other people think about them. And that's the fastest way to unhappiness and just an unhappy life that you can find. You've got to be who you are and you've got to go after the things that are important to you. And the caveat to that is you can have anything in life that you want, but you can't have everything. So everything comes with a sacrifice, right? So um, I could have. I've always worked a lot. I'm a worker. It's what I do. I'm a grinder for sure. And I'm a pretty intense guy. And so when I put my mind to something, it's hard to stop me from it. So I could have really just pitched it all aside and said, I'm going to build a career and make whatever, millions or billions of dollars and blah, 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 blah. Cool. But that's not what's like money has never motivated me. The freedom of money motivates me to make money, but I don't give a shit about the money. I don't give a shit about material things. Never have. But it's funny the things you remember because my parents got divorced right after my wife and I got married. They should have divorced 10 years before that, but they stayed together for the kids, and that was not a great environment for anyone to be in. And I love my mom, I love my dad. They're great people, but we all make choices in life, and that was one they probably should have made sooner. And so they would argue a lot. And I can remember being a kid, like, getting sent to my room so they could fight with each other. And it was never physical, but it was verbal. And it was, they just weren't good to each other sometimes. And I can remember sitting on my bed saying, you know what? I'm not going to live like this when I grow up. I'm going to marry someone that I really like being around. I'm going to marry someone that I want to spend my time with. And that's exactly what I did. And we both of us always say, we were fortunate that we didn't have to settle. I'm 6'3" and I was in good shape and I'm smart and blah, 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 blah. So I could choose anyone I wanted, which is exactly what I did. I chose the exact person that I wanted. I didn't have to settle at all. But then it was up to me to show value to keep her around. And I always say that's the best thing I can point to what a great salesperson I am, what a great salesman I am, because I've gotten that woman to stick around for 33 years. I'm a hell of a salesman. I am a hell of a
She's
salesman,
choosing.
Angela.
She's choosing. She's she's making a decision every day, probably second by second, minute by minute, is what we do.
Yes.
Or and you just as people is what we do. Like we make the choices, we make the decision. Like minute by minute, am I gonna go left, go right? Am I gonna stay? Am I gonna go? Am I gonna am I gonna, as young children say now, am I gonna crash out? Am I gonna act like I have some sense? Like what am I gonna do? Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Where do you, I guess two questions around the coaching and mentoring. Where do you find the people you work with and how do you make the decision on the people you work with?
Well, they actually, you can request me through my website if you want mentoring or if you want coaching. I only take on 10 people per year,
Hmm.
and that's by design
Yep.
because anything larger than that, will require less time for my own personal and professional development, and I'm not willing to do that. That's number one. And then number two, more times than not, the 10 people that I select to work with is going to dwindle down to 6, because the other 4 are probably going to last maybe to like month 2, month 3, because most people do not like you telling them that something that's gone wrong in their life is their fault, or something that is going wrong in their life is by way of a choice or a decision or non-decision. I mean, and again, people, they believe how they believe. I'm here for it, whatever. However, if you come to me, I'm assuming that you have done your research and you see that there's a particular track record of my life and the progression in my life, and you want some suggestions, you want some tips and tools that you can then take and you can tweak and you can make your own. However, the basics and the fundamentals are this: you have to decide, you have to deal, you have to be determined, and then you got to make time. You got to recognize the destination or the small wins. So in order to work with me, young or small, I mean, young or old, big or small, you have to, you got to buy into that. And a lot of people nowadays, it's like, it sounds good and it sounds really easy, but doing the work, because I'm still doing it. And that's what I try to get across to them. I'm like, I'm not sitting across from you. I'm not, on this Zoom, or I'm not, and that's another reason why, like at events and stuff, like I don't like when the podiums or the stage is like up here and then, you're like looking down on people, because and it's just a personal preference of mine. If there's a way to alter that, I usually do, so that I can be eye level with everyone, and be down like I'm in the trenches and I'm in the fight, because damn it, I am. There's no different, there's no difference, right? Like the last thing I would want is someone to like, she's arrived, she's made it, and only to know that, man, I gave in and I let somebody have it, or oh, I was negative just like 20 seconds or 20 minutes prior to this, or whatever, because I mean, I'm still growing and I'm still evolving. But in order for me to give my time and then carve out time in my life, because now that I know that, like I know the 24-hour tick of each clock is so precious and so valuable, until like it has to be beneficial. It has to be beneficial to you. It has to be beneficial to me. And some people just, they can't wrap their mind around the grunt work and the accountability that it takes, because a lot of people, some people come to you for the mentor and the coaching piece, and they want a way out, which is, blaming other people or other situations, or this happened because of that. But I'm hearing, and as I'm processing, I'm like, that sounds like that sounds like you. Or even if you didn't bring the problem, where's the solution?
Yep.
Like I'm just hearing problem. So now, by default, you are the problem. You are the bottleneck. So it's something that I love. I love connecting with people and aligning and trying to give them um, a different outlook. But today's society, people do not want they don't want self responsibility, and they don't want self accountability.
Yeah, it's wild, isn't it? And I'm with you. I'm not perfect at it. I got my own set of challenges. I think I do a better job than most people of recognizing that and trying to keep it front of mind, but I still fail at it 100%. Um, but it's funny how much better your life gets and how much better you feel about your situation when you take control of it, isn't it?
It is called freedom.
Mm,
And that's what I try to get people, family members, friends, colleagues, connections, clients, mentees, attendees, viewers. I try to get them to understand that the truth will set you free. But it's
Mm,
not just about the truth about other people. The truth that will set you free is the truth about you. It is about yourself, because ultimately you are the only one that you can do something about. Even with my children, like I look back, I have this one uh client, and they talk about their children, their children, their children. I'm like, yep, that sounds really good now. There's going to come a point in time when you do not control his or her actions. You do not control their choices or their, environment and whatever else. So then what do you have? Like, what's left? So thinking about it from those terms, for the people who like to control and have the dominance of everybody else and everything else. Oh, I'm, a this or that, and I have this many people under me, or and I'm like, okay, that's great, but what about your life? What does that really look like? Because I'm sure somewhere in there, because if all you have to offer or to talk about is other people and where they're at, or what they're not doing, or how you can do this, like, I want you to talk more about your muck ups. I want you to talk more about your growth and how you're evolving. Like what does that look like? In today's society, we just don't want to do it. There's so much finger pointing. There's so much blame, 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 until you can't get anything done. Nothing.
yeah.
And to go back on what you said earlier, and it was in my mind, and I know you've heard this many times. It is, I mean, it's true. We are, as a human society, we are more alike than we are different. But because of those little, I say potato, you say potato, I say tomato, you say tomato, we blow that up and make that, oh, I'm nothing. Or he doesn't think like me, she doesn't think like me, or we just go, what do they call it, Hatfields and McCoys or whatever,
Yeah.
and
Right.
we go full speed into that nonsense. And I mean, it's crazy. But when you're on a journey, on a growth journey in every way, you understand just how important freedom is. And to me, that is like, I mean, that is everything, to just be free. So being able to talk transparently about different areas and time frames in my life, or mistakes and whatever else, I don't, there's no more shame, there's no more guilt. And I know that for some people, they get really bothered by that, because that's like, what do they call it? That's the button that they can push. That's their trigger point. There are none. Because the minute somebody says, something, whether it was in my past, or hell, it could have been, this morning when the jerk cut me off, and I'm just like, what? Even though I know, like, there's nothing that's going to transpire. Why I gave him my energy, I have no idea. Did nothing. But still, just the freedom that comes from being able to discuss those things, or look back, or take accountability and responsibility, and then move forward with absolutely no reservation, or guilt that's going to be weighing me down. And now it's another thing that I'm dragging for the rest of my life. No, I'm after complete freedom. That's freedom of mind, freedom of body, freedom of, and definitely freedom of spirit. Like, I'm like, I want my energy, I want my environment, I just want my profession, my personal life, I want it free. And it's a decision.
Oh, I love it. Absolutely love it. Just so there's two questions I ask a lot, and they're so basic, and that's the way my mind is, very basic. Um, my favorite question is, what are you doing about it? So like, people love to complain and bitch and moan and cry, and what are you doing about it? Oh, I'm so tired of being overweight. What are you doing about it? How do you eat? What'd
Yep.
you eat today?
Yep.
Oh, I'm so tired of not being healthy. What are you doing about it? Did you go for a walk? Did you go outside? Did you get sunlight? Did you go for a hike? Did you work in your garden? Did you do anything to improve your station in life? What are you doing about it? And the other one is so what? So like people love to be, you just said it. People love to be aggrieved about it. What happened to them in the past? So what? So what? I had a terrible
That
upbringing.
was
So what? You're an adult now. It's your life. What are you doing? You can't unring the bell. The upbringing happened. It's over with. What did you learn from it? What are you doing about it? So what? Like, so what? So what?
yeah.
Nobody gives a shit. Like, everybody's got their own problems. Nobody cares about your whiny little problems. So what? What are you doing about it? Like, I love those two questions over and over and over again because eventually people run out of excuses. Eventually they run out of responses to that, you know? And I get
Yeah,
it. There's been,
your so what is like my now what?
yeah,
That's what I ask. Now what?
yeah. It's the same question, just one word different. That's exactly right. And look, I get it. People have had some terrible shit happen in their lives. I get it. I totally have empathy. What I tell people a lot though is you'll find sympathy in the dictionary between shit and syphilis. You're not going to find it from me. Like empathy is one thing, sympathy is useless. Feeling sorry for yourself or feeling sorry for other people is useless. Empathy is huge because then you can help people deal with stuff and you can help them move forward. But sympathy is a wasted emotion. Like it's just wasted energy. So I try to eliminate it not only from my life, but from anyone that I'm dealing with. I don't have sympathy. Like I have empathy. That's got to suck. That had to have sucked. Now what? Right? What are you doing about
What?
it? So well, so Angela, one thing I do on every podcast is I like to just open it up to you. Is there anything we haven't talked about yet, or any questions I haven't asked you that you want to make sure we talk about or get in front of the audience while we're together?
I think mostly we have covered everything and then
Mm.
some. I must say this has been quite the rewarding podcast. I feel like I've sat in front of my counselor, my therapist, and I've talked and I've shared about different things, which is a great thing. That's another reason that leads me to different platforms because I'm like, okay, well, what can I share, and then what can I learn? What can I, what can I take away from it or take away with it? I just really want to make sure that your audience, your viewers, your connections understand what it is to live vicariously through yourself.
Yes, I forgot about that.
And
Thank you.
yep. Live vicariously through yourself. Live vicariously through yourself. And that is first and foremost, which I know I've said it so many times during this podcast that I'm sure your audience and your viewers can put it in the notes and be like, decide that is correct. Ding, ding, ding. You have to make a choice to live vicariously through yourself. And why is it so important for you to live vicariously through yourself? Number one is for freedom of mind, freedom of spirit, freedom of just for you to grow from the past. Because things are going to happen day to day, day in and day out. Things are going to happen, good and bad, and whatever else. There's going to be loss. There's going to be gain, and whatever else. But when you decide that you really want to be free from stereotypes and societal trends and stigmas and whatever else. Now, again, disclaimer. I'm not saying go out there and be lawless. I'm not saying go out there and be a jerk. I'm not saying go out there and be an asshole. No, by no stretch of imagination. That's not what this is about. This is about making sure that within your freedom, you take the necessary time to grow for yourself. It's not just about, doing things for other people or watching other people, even for this podcast, listening to you and I talk or your other guests, your other, people that you've had on your platform and having some sort of of outer body experience, like I'm just gonna live through them or whatever. No, that's not how this works. It is your life. So the best that you can do is take the suggestions from whether it's books or people, places, positive people, positive places, and understand why you need to live vicariously. And that's vicariously, that's living free, living fulfilled. Is not this humdrum robotic where you just, you wake up and then every day you're doing the same thing, kind of like, I guess, the Groundhog Day experience or whatever. And you brush your teeth, then you go to work, then, get money, then, maybe you go grab a beer or you go to the church or whatever, then you go back home, then you with the family for a little bit, then you go to sleep. And every day, the monotony of everything and the robotics of everything, to me, that's not vicariously. Vicariously is, I am so free and fulfilled that even my time where I'm watching TV, or let's just say I'm journaling, or maybe I'm sitting down, having a meal, whether it's with family members or by myself, like I'm free and I have joy. I may not always be happy, but I have joy within me to where that peace cannot be disturbed or disrupted through external. And the last thing that I'll say about living vicariously through yourself, there's two things that I've learned. This latest book that I was reading is called Mental Dynamite. He talked about the word Kaizen, Kaizen, and that's continuous work on yourself. Continuous work on yourself. And then equanimity. Equanimity is the ability to not be, and I'm paraphrasing, but to not be disturbed by external situations, whether it's people, places, or things. Like you're so seated. And to me, that's what truly living vicariously through yourself is, because, it's inevitable. Somebody's going to die. You're going to have a loss of a loved one, or maybe you're no longer friends with someone, or I don't know, whatever. You're just going to have a bunch of stuff that you have to deal with. But after you make the choice and the decision that, hey, I'm going to live and I'm going to live fulfilled, I'm going to live free, I'm going to live vicariously through myself, then you just start, you start thinking clearer. I believe you start moving, moving a little better. So that would be the only thing that I would add to the viewers, because I think that's really, really important, especially in a society that all they want is to pit us against each other so that we can compare, compete. And don't get me wrong, competitiveness is, I think that is a worthwhile spirit. It's a worthwhile characteristic for you to, to place into your character 100%, because I mean, that's how you get that fight and that drive and that resilience. However, to just constantly compare and compete with different things, yeah, you're gonna be depressed, or you're gonna be not in a good headspace. And I think that's another thing that's contributing to all of the mental health issues worldwide, nationwide, global wide, because it's just, we're bombarded with so many things. And I believe that a lot of that would be managed and better balanced when people start living vicariously through themselves.
I love that. I always say the best comparison, the only comparison you should make, is to the person you were yesterday. If you try to be a little bit better today than you were yesterday, and you do that over and over and over again, Kaizen, then you'll be shocked at where it takes you in life. You'll be shocked at what a great life you can build for yourself. So, Angela, thank you so much. You were such a fun guest to have on. I absolutely loved our conversation. I love your positive message. And for the listeners, think about, just recap what Angela has done, right? So, small town in Georgia, to the NFL, to starting over, to building a career for herself, to starting over and building an entrepreneurial career for herself. She's reinvented herself multiple times to build the life and the awesome person that you see in front of you right now. And just really appreciate you coming on and sharing all that with our guests. And you don't have to look far for Angela. We've got all her information in the show notes. So if you are so inclined and are looking for a coach, you could reach out and see if maybe you're a good fit for her. She's a good fit for you. If you need content written, if you need anything written, she is your gal for sure because she loves writing and she's awesome at it. That's why she gets paid to do it. And if you have speaking engagements, you got an awesome opportunity here to engage a speaker that's got such great energy and such a positive message. So thank you again, Angela. You did a great job. Just loved having you on the podcast.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, guys, once again, we keep finding awesome people and putting them in front of you, giving you great tips and tricks and ways to develop the thought process you want to have a great life. And Angela just killed it, did such a good job. Love her positive energy, love her message, love that she's willing to be so candid and share all of her experiences with us here on the podcast. So kudos to Angela. All of her information is in the show notes, so check those out before you take off. Thank you again, Angela. You did just an awesome job. Loved having you on the podcast. So look, James puts it up right over here every day. Head over to our website, saltygingertalk.com. All the podcast episodes are there. Links to all the social media accounts are there. We publish a newsletter every weekday. You can subscribe to there. And please like, share, comment, subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you consume it on. We're going to keep finding awesome people and bringing them to you like Angela. We're going to keep giving you great tips and tricks to build the life that you want, and you don't want to miss any of that. So make sure you catch our next episode. We will see you there.